The grand ballroom of Hawthorne Manor shimmered under the soft glow of crystal chandeliers, each facet capturing the flickering candlelight and casting ethereal patterns upon the polished floor. Elegantly dressed couples twirled gracefully, their laughter mingling with the delicate strains of a string quartet, creating an intoxicating symphony of gaiety. The air was heavy with the sweet scent of blooming roses, their vibrant colors accentuating the opulence of a Regency ball. Yet amid the festivities, a chill crept over the heart of one young woman, Lady Isadora Pelham. Dressed in a gown of soft ivory silk, adorned with delicate lace and pearls, Isadora felt simultaneously out of place and overly scrutinized. She stood near the edge of the ballroom, her gloved fingers nervously twisting the delicate lace of her sleeve as she observed the revelry unfolding around her. Despite the flutter of excitement that accompanied such gatherings, a deep-seated tension coiled within her, tightening with every passing moment. Tonight was no ordinary ball. It was a stage set for her future, and she could feel the weight of expectation pressing down upon her. As her gaze swept across the room, Isadora's heart sank at the sight of her mother, the formidable Lady Pelham, engaging in earnest conversation with a tall, distinguished gentleman who bore the crest of an earl upon his lapel. The man's polished demeanor and affable smile could not mask the reality of what she believed was imminent. Rumors of an engagement had spread like wildfire in their circles, and the very idea of being promised to someone she barely knew felt like a shackle of iron around her heart. Isadora's heart raced as she recalled the whispered conversations she had overheard. "The Earl of Harrington has his eyes set on her," one lady had said with a conspiratorial glance. "A match for his fortune and title. What more could a girl desire?" The words stung, echoing her mother's dreams for her, a life designed for social advantage rather than emotional fulfillment. She had spent countless nights dreaming of love, of a partner who would see her as more than a mere pawn in a strategic game played by her family and society. Yet here she stood, on the precipice of an engagement that would seal her fate. Would she ever have the chance to pursue her own happiness? Doubt gnawed at her, making her palms sweaty as she reflexively grasped the cool metal of the ornate railing beside her. Suddenly, the atmosphere shifted. The music faltered, and a hushed whisper swept through the crowd. Isadora turned, her curiosity piqued. Emerging from the shadows, the Duke of Ravenswood made his entrance. His presence commanded attention, a powerful figure dressed in dark, tailored attire, his sharp features casting a striking silhouette against the golden backdrop of the ballroom. Whispers followed him like a wisp of smoke, speaking of his formidable reputation and the weight of his ambitions that loomed over society like a thundercloud. As he approached, Isadora felt his gaze lock onto hers, his deep blue eyes boring into her with an intensity that sent shivers down her spine. She had heard tales of the Duke, war-torn and vengeful, a figure who had returned from the battlefield with the coldness of winter etched into his very being. Yet as he drew closer, something inexplicable flickered in his expression, a glimmer of curiosity that seemed to penetrate the walls she had erected around her heart. "Lady Isadora," he spoke, his voice low and measured, yet undeniably magnetic. "I trust you are enjoying the ball?" Caught off guard, she stumbled over her words. "Yes, Your Grace. It is quite a splendid affair." The tremor in her voice betrayed her unease, but the Duke merely smiled, an enigmatic curve of his lips that hinted at secrets untold. "I find the company rather dull, if I'm honest," he admitted, his gaze sweeping over the crowd dismissively. "However, I believe it is a night meant for declarations. Are you not to be claimed, Lady Isadora?" The inquiry struck her like a bolt from the blue, rendering her momentarily speechless. The Duke's interest felt like a beacon of hope amid the despair of her impending engagement. Yet it was laced with the bitter taste of reality. I am," she finally managed to reply. her heart clenching at the words. The Earl of Harrington has expressed an interest. A flash of something, frustration, crossed his features before vanishing behind his carefully constructed facade. A fortunate match for him, he replied, but the steel in his voice hinted otherwise. But fortune does not always equate to happiness. The truth of his statement resonated within her, igniting a spark of rebellion against the constraints of her life. Her duty to family battled fiercely with her yearning for true love, a conflict that left her breathless and uncertain. "May I steal a dance, my lady?" he asked, extending his hand with a grace that belied the ferocity of his reputation. Though she hesitated, a thrill coursed through her as their fingers brushed, an electric connection that flooded her senses. In that moment, she glimpsed a world in which she could choose her own path, where the future was not dictated by duty, but by desire. Before she could respond, a commotion erupted from across the ballroom, drawing attention as laughter turned into gasps. Isadora's heart raced at the sudden shift in energy, but her gaze remained locked on the powerful figure before her. What was this unexpected alliance? One that could tether her to tradition or free her to pursue a different destiny? Before the evening concludes, he continued, an intensity in his gaze that demanded her full attention, "I will seek you out again. There are matters to discuss that extend beyond mere dances and parties." The urgency in his voice sent her pulse racing, a promise hanging in the air between them. Would she dare to tread the path of uncertainty, knowing the consequences that awaited her? For now, as she contemplated her choices, one thing became clear. This night would forever alter the course of her future. As the music resumed and laughter erupted anew, Isadora's mind raced with the possibilities lingering in the shadows. Torn between obligation and the stirring of her heart, she took a deep breath, ready to face the storm brewing within her soul. The Duke's presence loomed larger than the flickering candlelight around them, casting an intriguing shadow over Isadora's mind. Her heart thundered in her chest, the weight of his scrutiny sending a rush of warmth through her cheeks. "Declarations?" she echoed, uncertain of his intent, but intrigued nonetheless. "Yes," he said, his voice smooth, "but I believe it is the heart that must declare itself, rather than mere societal expectations. In your case, Lady Isadora, I sense a longing for something more." The confidence in his tone startled her. How could he perceive so much when she had hidden her true feelings behind a veil of composure? Isadora's pulse quickened. "Your Grace, she began, but the words faltered on her lips. Part of her wanted to protest, to remind him of her impending engagement to the Earl, while another part yearned for the freedom that his presence seemed to promise. It was a dangerous dance, one that could unravel the threadbare fabric of her carefully constructed life. "Forgive my boldness," he continued, an edge of sincerity creeping into his words. "I have seen many things in my life, things that have shaped me into the man I am today. The battlefield is but a reflection of one's inner conflicts." His blue eyes darkened, revealing a flicker of vulnerability hidden beneath his stoic facade. "I have lost much, including the freedom to choose my path. I understand the weight of expectation, as I was once chained to my own duties." Isadora found herself drawn in by the raw honesty of his admission. The Duke of Ravenswood was not just a figure shrouded in mystery. He was a man burdened by his own scars, and for the first time, she saw beyond the cold exterior. "What do you mean?" she asked softly, her curiosity piqued. He inhaled deeply, as if summoning the courage to share. "In my youth, I was betrothed to a woman of great beauty and stature, a match deemed perfect by the society we lived in. Yet my heart belonged elsewhere. I was a coward then, allowing others to dictate my fate. When she was taken from me, I realized that life is too fleeting to ignore one's desires." His gaze bore into hers, a silent plea for understanding. Isadora's heart ached at his revelation. Here was a man who had faced the harsh realities of loss, yet he stood before her, unyielding in his pursuit of happiness. "And you believe I can defy my own fate?" she whispered, the tremor in her voice betraying the turmoil within. The Duke stepped closer, the space between them charged with unspoken possibilities. "I believe that every heart deserves a chance to love freely. Your betrothal may seem like an unbreakable bond, but you hold the power to choose your own happiness. You are not a pawn, Isadora. You're a queen waiting to claim her throne." The intensity of his words struck a chord deep within her. For so long, she had accepted her role without question, allowing the expectations of her family and society to dictate her worth. But now, as she stood before the Duke, she could feel the chains of obligation beginning to fracture. "I have never considered myself worthy of such freedom," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "Then let me help you see it," he urged, a hint of desperation threading through his tone. "Let me show you that love is not merely a transaction of titles and fortunes, but a journey of souls intertwining. When I look at you, I see potential, a spirit yearning for more. Together, we could explore a world beyond these walls." Isadora's breath hitched, the prospect of defying her fate intoxicating yet terrifying. The thought of stepping away from her engagement, the life she had been destined to lead, was both exhilarating and terrifying. "But what of my family? What of the Earl?" she questioned, her heart torn between duty and desire. "The Earl does not hold your heart, nor does he understand the essence of who you truly are," the Duke replied, his voice unwavering. "If you wish to navigate your own path, you must first acknowledge your own worth. Do not let others define you, Isadora. You are far more than a title or a marriage contract." As the last strains of music filled the air, Isadora felt the world around her blur into insignificance. Here stood a man who understood her plight, urging her to embrace her identity. The weight of her mother's expectations pressed down upon her. Yet, the Duke's words ignited a flicker of hope. Could she truly embark on a journey of her own making? "Your Grace," she began, her voice steadying as determination bubbled within her. "I wish to learn more about love, about myself, but how do I begin?" A soft smile crept across the Duke's face, a glimmer of respect shining in his eyes. "You begin by taking the first step. Meet me tomorrow at the garden near the fountain, at dawn. Let us escape the expectations of this world, just for a moment. We'll find the truths that lie beyond these walls." As he turned to leave, a rush of emotion surged through Isadora. Intertwining fear and anticipation, she could feel the boundaries of her old life beginning to dissolve, replaced by a path of possibility. Yet she also felt the weight of her impending engagement looming over her like a dark cloud. As the Duke disappeared into the crowd, the cool night air enveloped her, and she was left standing at the crossroads of her life. Would she choose the safety of obligation or the uncertain promise of love? The choice weighed heavily upon her, yet for the first time, she sensed the stirrings of hope, an awakening that could change everything. Before we continue with Isadora's journey towards self-discovery, if you are intrigued by this tale of love and choices, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe. Now let's see what happens next. The garden party at Hawthorne Manor buzzed with excitement, the air fragrant with blooming jasmine and the sweet notes of laughter intermingling with soft melodies from a nearby string quartet. Lanterns swayed gently in the evening breeze, casting a warm glow over the gathered guests. Isadora stood at the edge of the vibrant gathering, her heart heavy with the weight of unspoken words and burgeoning desires. As she observed the scene, her mind echoed with the Duke's earlier declarations, igniting a fire within her that clashed with the cold reality of her impending engagement. The chatter around her shifted, voices rising and falling like the gentle tide, and she could not help but lean in, curiosity piqued. "Did you hear?" A woman's voice carried over the laughter. The Duke of Ravenswood, once a celebrated hero, now rumored to be a man of scandalous reputation. It would be unwise for any lady to associate with him, especially one like Isadora. Her breath caught in her throat. The name pierced through her like a cold dagger, striking at the very core of her being. A wave of whispers washed over her, snippets of gossip about the Duke's past, each more salacious than the last. Some claimed he had been involved in duels for love, while others spoke of a broken engagement that had left a trail of scandal in its wake. As the gossip swirled around her, Isadora felt an unexpected determination swell within. How could she allow the judgments of society to dictate her worth? Standing there, she realized that she no longer wished to be the passive figure in her own life, merely waiting for the next turn of fate to decide her future. The Duke had awakened something in her, a longing for authenticity, for a life governed by her own choices. With newfound resolve, Isadora approached the group, her heart racing. "Excuse me," she interjected, her voice steady yet soft. "But may I remind you that every person is more than their past? The Duke is a man of depth and experience. He is not merely defined by the shadows of rumor." Surprise flickered across the faces of the gossipers, but she pressed on. "We all have stories that shape us, and it is not for us to judge another's journey. I have chosen to see the man behind the cold reputation." The shock quickly transformed into murmurs of disapproval, and Isadora felt a pang of fear grasp her heart. The Earl, her betrothed, was known for his adherence to societal expectations, and she could only imagine how he would react to her defense of the Duke. Yet standing there, she found a sense of liberation in rebuking the expectations that sought to bind her. Later, as the evening deepened, Isadora found herself seeking solitude among the fragrant roses that lined the garden path. She inhaled deeply, the floral scent enveloping her like a comforting embrace. The moonlight danced on the petals, and for a moment, she allowed herself to dream of a life unrestrained by duty. Just then, she heard footsteps approaching. The Duke appeared, his expression a mixture of surprise and admiration. "I saw you stand up to them," he said, his voice low and filled with warmth. "You possess a strength that many lack, even when faced with the harshest judgments." Her heart fluttered at his praise, yet a flicker of doubt intruded. But is it wise to defy society for the sake of one's desires? What if I tarnish my reputation in the process? The Duke stepped closer, his presence comforting yet electrifying. "Reputation can be a fragile thing, Lady Isadora, often dictated by the whispers of others. But the strength to choose your own path? That is a power worth pursuing. I admire your courage, but what do you truly desire?" His question lingered in the air, heavy with implication. Isadora's heart raced as she looked deep into his compelling blue eyes. "I desire freedom, to be seen for who I truly am, beyond my family's expectations or the Earl's plans for me." "Then we must fight for it together," he replied firmly, his voice imbued with conviction. "You are not alone in this, Isadora. I have faced my own battles, and I know how difficult the path of true desire can be. But I also know that it is possible to reclaim your heart." A sudden burst of laughter from the party interrupted their moment, reminding Isadora of the world beyond the garden. The whispers of scandal returned, swirling around her like the night air. "But the rumors," she began, her confidence wavering. "The rumors are simply that, rumors," he interrupted, his tone resolute. "What matters is what you choose. If we are to forge a connection, it must be genuine and free from the judgments of others. You must trust in your own heart, not the chains of expectation." As Isadora absorbed his words, a realization dawned upon her. The Duke, despite his past, was offering her a chance to explore a future filled with possibilities. Here was a man who understood the weight of societal chains, yet he had chosen to break free, to embrace his truth. Could she do the same? The tension between them crackled with unspoken possibilities, and Isadora felt the stirring of hope amidst the uncertainty. But the stakes were rising, and the consequences of her choices loomed larger than ever. The Earl's expectations and the Duke's reputation hung heavy in the air. A delicate balance between duty and desire, freedom and obligation. "I will not let fear dictate my choices," Isadora declared, her voice steadier than before. "If my heart desires to explore this connection, then so be it. I will confront the consequences that arise." The Duke's expression softened, revealing a glimmer of pride. "Then let us discover what lies beyond these walls, and what we can truly become together." With a shared understanding, they stepped back toward the party, the whispers of gossip fading into the background. The path ahead was uncertain, but Isadora felt a surge of determination as she prepared to embrace her own fate, one bold step at a time. In that moment, a new chapter began, one where she would navigate the complexities of choice, love, and the ever-present shadows of society. The stakes had never been higher, but for the first time, Isadora truly felt alive. The moon hung high in the sky, illuminating the secluded corner of the garden where Isadora and the Duke stood, their voices hushed, yet charged with intensity. The fragrant roses swayed softly in the gentle breeze, as if nature itself held its breath, allowing the pair a moment of fragile intimacy. "I have spent years adhering to the expectations thrust upon me by my title," the Duke confessed, his azure eyes reflecting the moonlight as he gazed at her. "But with each passing day, it feels more like a shackle than a crown." The intensity of his words struck a chord within Isadora, resonating with her own struggles against the confines of duty and society's demands. "What do you dream of, Your Grace?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper, a spark of curiosity igniting her heart. His expression softened, a vulnerability breaking through the stoic facade he wore so well. "I dream of a life where I'm not merely the Duke, but a man of my own making. A life filled with adventure, laughter, and perhaps—" He hesitated, the weight of his desires hanging in the air between them. "Perhaps love." Isadora's heart raced. Love? The word hung delicately in the night, radiating hope and fear in equal measure. "But how can we pursue such things when the world demands we conform to its designs?" "By being bold," he replied, stepping closer, the proximity sending a thrill through her. "We must carve our own paths, Lady Isadora. We can choose to live authentically, regardless of society's expectations." The resolve in his voice ignited a flame within her. "I want to be free too. I want to explore the world beyond these walls, to find out who I truly am." The admission flowed from her lips with an ease she hadn't anticipated. "I long for a life where I can express myself without fear of judgment, without being tied to an engagement I never wanted." Their eyes locked, and in that moment, an unspoken understanding blossomed between them. The burdens they carried felt lighter in each other's presence, as though sharing their dreams had forged a bond unbreakable by the societal constraints that sought to keep them apart. Isadora took a steadying breath, emboldened by his gaze. "What if we could escape this place? What if we could venture beyond the reach of those who would dictate our lives?" A flicker of mischief glinted in his eyes. "A daring proposition, my lady, but what if we were to do just that? What if we sought adventure together? No titles, no expectations, just two souls seeking their truth." Her heart soared at the thought, her imagination swirling with visions of distant lands and uncharted paths. "Could we?" she breathed, the thrill of possibility pulsing through her. "Is it truly within our grasp?" The Duke extended his hand toward her, an invitation laden with promise. "We must be willing to take the risk, Isadora. There's a world beyond these gardens, one filled with colors and experiences we have yet to discover. If you're with me, I will not let fear hold you back." As she placed her hand in his, warmth enveloped her. "Together then," she whispered, feeling as though she stood at the precipice of a new beginning. But as the gravity of their decision settled in, The distant sounds of laughter and clinking glasses from the party echoed ominously in the background, a reminder of the world they were defying. The weight of societal expectations loomed large, casting shadows over their budding connection. "Do you think they will understand?" she asked, uncertainty creeping into her voice. "Will they accept our choices?" The Duke's expression hardened, determination etched into his features. "There will always be those who resist change, but we cannot let their judgments dictate our lives. We must be the authors of our own stories, even if it means challenging the narrative they wish to impose upon us." His conviction steadied her resolve, igniting a fire within. "I do not wish to hide anymore. I want to live fully, to embrace whatever may come." "Then we shall embrace it together," he replied, squeezing her hand gently. "We will navigate the storm of societal and emerge stronger. But first, we must take the first step forward." Suddenly, the sound of hurried footsteps broke through their intimate moment. They turned to see a familiar figure approaching, Lord Faulkner, the Earl, his expression a mix of concern and anger. "Isadora, there you are," he barked, his voice cutting through the warm night air like a knife. "You must return to the gathering at once. You are drawing too much attention." Her heart sank as she met the Duke's gaze, the reality of her situation crashing down around her. "I must go," she said reluctantly, feeling the walls of her life closing in again. "Wait," the Duke whispered urgently, releasing her hand. "Remember what we've spoken of. This is just the beginning. We will find a way, together." With a lingering look, she turned and hurried toward the Earl, her heart heavy, yet buoyed by the promise of what could be. The moment felt fleeting, yet in her chest, a revolution was brewing, one that would not easily be quelled. As Isadora rejoined the throng of guests, she cast one last glance over her shoulder, finding the Duke watching her, a fierce determination in his gaze. Their connection had deepened, igniting a spark of hope amidst the encroaching darkness of their circumstances. But both knew that the path ahead would be fraught with challenges, and the world outside awaited their boldness. Little did they realize that soon they would be forced to confront the very society they sought to defy, testing the strength of their bond and the depth of their desires. The vibrant din of laughter echoed through the grand hall, but Isadora felt only a heavy silence as she navigated through clusters of guests, her heart pounding with an urgency that felt foreign yet exhilarating. The Duke's words lingered in her mind like a sweet melody, resonating with her longing for freedom. Yet the pressing weight of her engagement clung to her, a reminder of the expectations that awaited her. Across the room, the unmistakable figure of her fiancé, Lord Nathaniel, stood with an air of authority, his crisp attire making him appear even more formidable. He was surrounded by admirers, but his gaze was fixed upon Isadora, a hawk surveying its territory. As she approached, the glimmer in his eyes darkened, and tension prickled in the air between them. "Isadora," he called, a hint of impatience lacing his voice, drawing the attention of those nearby. "Come here, will you? I wish to speak with you." His tone brooked no argument, and the laughter around them faded into an uneasy hush. She braced herself, forcing her feet to move despite the reluctance that gnawed at her. "Yes, Nathaniel," she replied, her voice steady, though her heart raced at the impending confrontation. "I've heard whispers," he began, his voice low, almost conspiratorial. "Whispers of your late-night escapades, meetings that carry a hint of impropriety." The accusation hung heavy in the air, and the surrounding guests leaned in, their interest piqued by the unfolding drama. Isadora's pulse quickened. She had known this moment would come, yet she had hoped to delay it, to find a way to evade the inevitable confrontation. "They are mere rumors," she asserted, trying to keep her tone firm. "I have done nothing wrong." "Nothing wrong?" he echoed, incredulous. "You speak of nothing wrong while you meet in secret with the Duke of Ashford?" Do you not see how this reflects on our engagement? The tension in his voice crackled, and she could feel the weight of his expectations pressing down on her. "I am not a possession, Nathaniel," she replied, her voice rising with determination. "I will not be dictated by the whims of society or a title that I did not choose." The words surged forth, fueled by her recent revelations and the courage inspired by the Duke's presence. He took a step closer, lowering his voice as he leaned in, his expression sharp. "Be careful, Isadora. Your defiance may lead to consequences you do not anticipate. I could expose your secret meetings. Would you like to see the Duke's reputation tarnished?" The thread hung between them, heavy and suffocating. Isadora felt her heart drop at the implications. "You would not," she whispered, her voice trembling with a mix of fury and fear. "Try me," he challenged, his confidence seeping into the space around them like a poison. "You are promised to me, Isadora. The Earl's daughter cannot simply abandon her duty." "But what of my duty to myself?" she shot back, refusing to back down. The gaze of the guests around them felt like a spotlight, illuminating the depths of her struggle. "I will not live my life in service to an engagement that was never my choice. You cannot force me into a future I do not desire." His expression hardened, lips pressed into a thin line. "You think a world beyond these walls awaits you? You think the Duke will offer you anything but a fleeting fantasy?" The disdain in his voice echoed through her, a chilling reminder of the stakes involved. With a deep breath, she steadied herself. "Perhaps the Duke offers me more than mere fantasy. He ignites a fire in me, one that compels me to seek my own path. Can you say the same?" She felt a wave of defiance wash over her, bolstered by the understanding she had shared with the Duke just moments before. "Be cautious, Isadora," he warned, his tone now low and menacing. "You tread dangerous waters." As the laughter and music swirled around them, Isadora felt her resolve strengthen. The weight of her fiancé's threats loomed over her, yet the memory of the Duke's invitation to carve their own destiny pulsed within her. "I will not be silenced, Nathaniel. I refuse to be a pawn in your game." "Then you leave me no choice," he replied, his voice dripping with menace. "If you wish to pursue your fantasies, I shall reveal the truth of your nightly meetings. The world will see you for the woman you truly are." The threat hung ominously in the air, yet it also sparked something within her, a clarity she had not expected. Isadora knew that she stood at a crossroads. "If that is the price I must pay to live authentically, then so be it," she declared, her voice unwavering. Nathaniel's eyes darkened, and for a moment, a flicker of uncertainty crossed his face. He was not accustomed to being challenged, and her newfound strength rattled him. "You are making a grave mistake, Isadora. You may think you have a choice, but you will find yourself alone if you continue down this path." "Alone?" she echoed, feeling a surge of conviction. "I may be alone in your eyes, but I have found a connection with someone who understands my heart, and that is worth everything to me." The guests, who had been watching intently, now murmured among themselves, their eyes alight with curiosity and speculation. Isadora could feel their stares, but in that moment, she no longer cared. She had stepped into her truth, and that was far more liberating than any engagement could ever offer. "I shall not yield to you, Nathaniel," she declared, her voice ringing clear. "I choose to live for myself, to seek my own adventures." With that, she turned on her heel and walked away, leaving the stunned silence behind her. Each step away from him was a step toward her own liberation, a defiance against the chains of expectation. A sense of hope blossomed within her, propelling her forward. As she re-entered the vibrant party, the music swelled around her, and for the first time, she felt free. The looming shadows of her engagement faded, replaced by the electrifying possibility of a life yet to be lived. With every heartbeat, Isadora embraced her choice, knowing that the true journey was just beginning. Her heart raced with anticipation of what lay ahead, the warmth of the Duke's memory guiding her toward a future woven with the threads of her own desires. And somewhere in the garden, beyond the chaos of the party, she could almost hear the echo of his promise, a world filled with adventure, laughter, and perhaps love. The masquerade ball reached a fever pitch as music swelled and laughter echoed off the opulent walls of Hawthorne Manor. Isadora stood at the center of the hall, her heart thundering in her chest, a whirlwind of emotions swirling within her. The vibrant masks of the guests seemed to mock her turmoil, each painted visage hiding secrets that resonated with her own. She could feel the weight of the moment pressing down upon her, a critical juncture where desires collided with obligations. As Nathaniel's gaze bore into her, she felt the suffocating grip of their engagement tighten around her throat. The voices around them faded, replaced by the thumping of her heart. "Isadora, you must understand," he insisted, his voice low but firm. "We are on the brink of something great, our future together. Do not jeopardize it with your foolish whims." "Foolish whims?" she echoed, an edge of defiance in her tone. "Is it foolish to want to choose my own path, to seek a life beyond the walls of expectation?" The guests were still, their eyes darting between the couple, the tension palpable as they witnessed this clash of wills. "Your feelings for Ashford are reckless," Nathaniel hissed, his voice dripping with disdain. "You think he is your salvation, but he is nothing more than a fleeting distraction." "It is not just him," Isadora retorted, her voice rising. "It is about me, who I am beneath the weight of your title and the suffocating expectations of society." She could feel the heat of the moment drawing her deeper into her own resolve, a clarity emerging from the chaos. At that moment, the Duke appeared at the edge of the gathering, his presence commanding and ethereal, like a figure from a dream. The masked crowd parted for him, a ripple of curiosity and admiration following in his wake. He approached, his eyes meeting Isadora's with an intensity that made her heart leap. "Isadora," he called out, his voice cutting through the tension. "I have something to say." "Your Grace," Nathaniel growled, stepping protectively in front of Isadora. "This is not your place." But the Duke ignored him, his focus unwavering. "I seek your hand, not as a mere escape from the life you know, but as a partnership built on mutual respect and understanding. Together we can forge a new path." His declaration hung in the air, laden with possibility. Isadora's breath caught in her throat. "What do you mean?" she asked, the world around her fading into a blur. "I intend to leave society behind," he replied, his gaze steady. "To find a life that is authentic, free from the constraints of titles and wealth. I want you by my side." The sincerity in his eyes burned bright, igniting a spark of hope and rebellion within her. Around them, whispers erupted, tinged with disbelief and intrigue. The guests, who had once been mere spectators, now felt the gravity of the moment, the potential for a new beginning, one that transcended the expectations of their world. "What about your responsibilities?" Nathaniel interjected, his voice low but laced with desperation. "You cannot simply abandon everything you've built." "Responsibilities?" the Duke challenged, his voice rising above the murmur. "What worth is a title that binds one to a life of unfulfilled expectations? I choose authenticity over pretense." His words resonated deeply within Isadora, echoing her own yearnings. In a surge of courage, Isadora stepped forward, her heart pounding with each beat. "I choose my own destiny," she declared, her voice steady and clear. "I will not be reduced to a pawn in a game I never wished to play." The crowd gasped collectively, their astonishment palpable. Nathaniel's face darkened, a storm brewing in his eyes. "And you think this will end well?" he challenged, fear creeping into his voice. "You will face the scorn of society, the loss of everything." "Better to face scorn than to live a lie," she countered, the conviction in her voice unwavering. No longer will I be trapped by the shackles of duty. I refuse to be promised to a life that does not reflect who I truly am." As she spoke, she felt the weight lifting, the chains of obligation cracking beneath the strength of her resolve. The murmurs of the guests transformed into a wave of murmured support. Some nodded approvingly, while others exchanged glances filled with intrigue. Across the room, the Duke's expression softened, a flicker of pride lighting his features. "Then let us forge a new path together," he said, extending his hand toward her. "Isadora, will you join me in seeking a life unbound by these walls?" She hesitated for only a moment, the gravity of such a decision crashing over her. The world spun around her, and the faces of her guests blurred together. But in that moment, clarity emerged. The Duke was not just an escape. He was an invitation to a life that resonated with her soul. "I will," she said, stepping forward and taking his hand. The warmth of his touch ignited the fire within her, solidifying her transformation from a dutiful daughter to a woman of agency. Cheers erupted from the crowd, mingling with gasps of disbelief, but none of it mattered. In that instant, Isadora felt free. She had chosen love, authenticity, and a future that was hers to create. As Nathaniel's face darkened with fury and confusion, Isadora reveled in the clarity that came with her choice. The masquerade ball, once a place of entrapment, had transformed into a celebration of liberation. She turned to Nathaniel, her heart steady. "I am not yours to control," she affirmed, her voice unwavering. With that, the night opened before her like a canvas, ripe with the promise of new beginnings, while the echoes of her past began to fade into the background noise of the celebration. What lay ahead was uncertain, but the warmth of the Duke's hand in hers guided her toward a future woven with the threads of her own desires. The guests, now mere silhouettes against a backdrop of light, stood witness to a moment that would ripple through their lives. And together, Isadora and the Duke stepped into the unknown, united in their quest for authenticity and love. The grand hall of Hawthorne Manor, once filled with gaiety and laughter, now held an air of unease, echoing with the hushed whispers of the guests. Isadora stood beside the Duke, her heart racing as they faced the aftermath of their bold declarations. The masks that had once concealed their identities now felt like barriers, separating them from the world they wished to escape. "Isadora," the Duke began, his voice steady yet laced with urgency, "we must act quickly. The repercussions of our choices will not go unnoticed." He reached for her hand, his grip firm and reassuring. "We stand at the precipice of a new life, but we must navigate the storm together." As she looked into his eyes, Isadora felt a surge of determination. "What do you propose?" she asked, her voice steady, betraying none of the tumult within. "First, we must address Nathaniel. He will not take this lightly, and we cannot allow him to sway public opinion against us," the Duke replied. "We need to demonstrate that our union is not a mere rebellion, but a partnership grounded in mutual respect and vision." Isadora nodded, recalling Nathaniel's earlier contempt. "He will challenge our resolve, but I am prepared. I will not be painted as the villain in this story." The fire ignited within her, illuminating the path ahead. The Duke smiled, a glimmer of admiration in his gaze. "Then we must make our intentions clear to the world. We can hold a gathering, a declaration of our commitment to each other and our shared values. It will show society that we are not fleeing from our responsibilities, but rather redefining them." As the idea took root, Isadora felt a wave of excitement wash over her. "A gathering? But what if they refuse to accept us?" "They will have no choice but to witness our resolve," he replied, his confidence infectious. "We will invite those who share our vision of a life unbound by tradition. We will create a space for those who yearn for change." The thought of standing beside him, defying the constraints of their world, filled Isadora with a sense of purpose. I will not hide any longer, she declared, her voice resolute. Let them see the truth of our intentions. We are not mere pawns in their game. We are the architects of our future. As the night wore on, the atmosphere shifted. The guests began to disperse, their laughter fading into the night, leaving Isadora and the Duke standing amidst the remnants of the ball. The echoes of their earlier confrontation lingered in the air, a reminder of the choices they had made. Isadora, the Duke said softly, breaking the silence that enveloped them, you have shown immense courage tonight. It is not just the act of defiance, but the willingness to embrace who you are meant to be. Her heart swelled at his words. And you, Your Grace, have given me the strength to fight for my own destiny. No longer will I be the Earl's daughter bound by expectations. I will forge my own path. Together, he affirmed, stepping closer, we will face the scrutiny and judgment. But I promise you this, our bond will only grow stronger as we navigate this tumultuous journey. With a newfound sense of unity, they began to devise a plan, detailing the guest list for their upcoming gathering. Friends, allies, and those who dared to dream of a life beyond societal constraints would be welcomed. As dawn broke, casting a soft glow over the manor, Isadora stood at the window, her heart racing with anticipation. What if they don't understand? She pondered aloud, her mind racing with possibilities. Then we shall show them, the Duke replied, his voice steady. We will embody the change we wish to see. They will learn that we are not defined by our titles, but by our choices and our passions. A sense of warmth enveloped her as she envisioned their future. The road ahead would undoubtedly be fraught with challenges, but the promise of a life lived authentically ignited a fire within her. Together, she whispered, turning to face him, we will change the narrative. And it begins now, he declared, his eyes sparkling with determination. As they stood united, hand in hand, a sense of hope blossomed between them. The world outside may be unyielding, but within the walls of Hawthorne Manor, they had forged a new beginning. In the days that followed, whispers of their gathering spread like wildfire. The guests they had invited arrived with a mix of curiosity and skepticism. But as the evening unfolded, the atmosphere shifted. Isadora and the Duke spoke passionately of their vision for a life unbound by the chains of tradition, inspiring those who had once felt voiceless. As the final notes of the evening faded into the night, Isadora stood before the assembled crowd, her heart swelling with pride. Let us not be defined by the expectations placed upon us, she urged, her voice ringing clear. Let us forge our own destinies, together. The applause that followed was thunderous, a testament to the shift they had begun to create. In that moment, she realized that they were not merely standing against the past. They were stepping boldly into a future filled with possibility. And as she looked into the Duke's eyes, she knew they would face whatever came next, side by side, united in their pursuit of a life that was truly their own.